ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the offlane tier list for patch 7.35C. This tier list is based, of course, on the Dream League Season 22, which is currently happening, and I'm at. So if you want to see your boy, the event is still going on. Link is in the description. You can see the best ways to play 7.35C, not just the offlane, but let's look at the offlane tier list. What are the good offlaners? Well, let's start, of course, with the dogshit ones. So this hero really enjoyed that patch where everybody was building Heart and Blade Mail, because you know who builds Heart and Blade Mail? Tanky Strength heroes. You know who Necro's good against? Tanky Strength heroes. You know what Necro basically is? A tanky Strength hero. So he would build the Heart, he would play against people with Hearts. He loved this shit. They nerfed Heart. That completely fell off. All the tanky Strength heroes fell off, and then they also nerfed Necro. So all of these things put him in the dumpster. Even though they just buffed Heart, he is still in the dumpster thoroughly. Nature's Prophet. This hero has been played as a 4 and 5 position ever since they buffed Sprout so that it does damage over time. They just nerfed that in the letter patch because he was too good. They just nerfed his damage. Before that, they nerfed his agility, which hurts his right-clicking ability. So all of these things hurt his ability to play as a core position hero. And even if they didn't nerf this shit, until they buff Treants and make that better, I don't think he's going to be a good offlaner. But I like to put him in the list because for Dota's history, he has perpetually been an offlaner. So he's going to stay in the list just in the dog shit tier. Wraith King. So there's a few issues with this hero. Similar to Necro, he had a patch where he was really good, where his Aghanim Scepter was completely bonkers. Since then, they have nerfed that, as well as there are a lot of carry position heroes right now, such as Luna, Sven, that are popular, that are really strong against the skeletons in lane. They also nerfed the skeleton damage as well, so even the heroes that can't deal with them will not care as much about them. So Wraith King, he's in the dumpster tier. Underlord, this is the ultimate mech into pipe builder in Dota, and whenever that build is super strong, you could just be immortal standing in front of shit. Underlord is the man. Right now, Monkey King is a good hero, Slark is a good hero, Ursa's a decent hero. All of these heroes will counter an Underlord in the lane, and he just doesn't really build the current meta items. Maybe there's a build where people are going to start going like Yule Scepter Atos on him and play around the pit. I could see that. I haven't seen it yet. Until I see it, I have to say that like this hero, if you consider him in his historical archetype, which is the mech and the pipe, there's just better options for that. Sand King. So there's a few issues with this guy. My basic explanation of it is the thing that he is the absolute best at in Dota is standing in front of tier 1 towers with Sandstorm and making them unkillable. So if that's a good thing to do, then Sand King is automatically good. That's not a good thing to do because tier 1 towers don't really matter that much. There's too many camps to farm. People don't even bother to try to take them or defend them, so that doesn't matter. Also, the heroes that counter him, such as Anti-Mage, are very strong. It's a free lane, and this hero between levels 1 to 3 is already a free lane for most carries, and that's not good. People are very good at abusing, snowballing off the first few creep waves. Omni Knight, they actually just buffed this hero where Repel now protects against pure damage. This was like the only form of spell immunity in the game that didn't do that. I think this was a Bet Boom Dacha game where Team Spirit last picked Omni into like Timber plus OD, where it looked like they thought that it worked against pure damage because everything else does in Dota. So that's a good buff, but it's a niche scenario thing where I don't think it affects Omni Knight in general. Still, you're going to build into Echo Saber and Aghanim Shard, and there are very particular games where that is good, and you can snowball off of that. It's like a snowballing only thing, so you need to see the lane first and also be very good at Omni Knight. It's oftentimes not super worth that. Tiny, I'm putting this in here for biased personal reasons, also because ATF just played Tiny offlane and Bet Boom Dacha. It's not that good, but Tiny is just a really good hero. They buffed his Q, they buffed his W, the damage on both of these things. They buffed Tree Grab, they gave it some more damage, they lowered the cooldown, they buffed his ult. So Tiny is an S tier hero, and because of that, if you really want to play it in the offlane, you can. Try Revenant's Brooch, it's awesome. Maybe with Rapiers and Tree Volley. Spirit Breaker. So the issue with this hero is that, of course, there was a couple of patches ago where he was completely cancer, so they nerfed him after that. But Orchid is one of the most strongest items in Dota. In my opinion, it's like the strongest, but we'll see how the meta progresses. I think there's going to be like 3 in each game or something, or 3 on each team, maybe 2 to 3 on each team. At some point, it's like that busted because they lowered the cost on it, and it was already good, and Bloodthorn is a good item. And because of this, people are going for Yule Scepter very early on heroes, and people are picking heroes that go for Yule Scepter. And what counters Spirit Breaker Yule Scepter, because you can take off his Bulldoze. So that feels really shitty for him. And he can't charge away from you also. Abaddon, another hero that is countered by the mass Yule Scepters that people are buying. You just Yule Sim when he ults, and he feels really awful. This hero also, when they changed his passive so that it did a little bit of damage over time, actually a lot of damage over time, he became very strong. They subsequently nerfed that, and he fell off a little bit. So I think Abaddon is fine tier. He's maybe still a better carry than he is an offlaner, but still not that great of a carry, just because the carries that are good are really good, and Abaddon's not one of them. Anyway, this is not a carry tier list. Legion Commander, this is a Blink Blade Mail builder, and she suffers from a similar thing that Sand King does, which is the fact that it is just not a Blink initiating sort of patch. These offlaners are building utility items, tank items, spellcasting items, but not just sitting in trees waiting to blink initiate on people. And also, you Yule Scepter a Blade Mail dueling Legion Commander, and that feels really bad for her. Also, the heroes that are strong against her are totally fine to pick right now. The Ursas and Monkey Kings and such. Speaking of Monkey King, Lone Druid, they just made it so Jingu works on the bear, so he's no longer a Monkey King counter, which is really funny. That was always a thing for a long time. The enemy team picks Monkey King carry, you pick the one gotcha offlane hero that beats it. Lone Druid is not that anymore. But the big nerfs to this hero are the fact that his bear has a longer cooldown. His bear has worse move speed because that means you pretty much have to get boots, which sucks because you want to rush Diffusal. Diffusal was also nerfed, so was Disperser. So Lone Druid, I also think people have gotten much better at dealing with the hero, either like Puck silencing or orchiding the main guy and then killing him before he gets his ult off, or Slardar amping, which is a very strong hero, the bear or something of that sort, and killing the bear. So that doesn't help him. Dazzle, I will say the same thing about Dazzle that I say every time, which is as a core, the fact that you can no longer reduce the cooldown on items really hurts him. It means if you want to play him as a core, you're doing the Aghanim Scepter thing, which I think is fine, but you need a particular game for it. It's like Omniknight. You pick it because you know you're going to win the lane, because it's last pick, because you're a good Dazzle player, and you're going to snowball. But that's hard to do. Pudge. Collapse plays this, or he did at Bet Boom Dacha, and since then, there are two things that I want to talk about. One positive, one negative. The positive is that Mage Slayer was nerfed. Pudge hated this shit, and he didn't get it. So the fact that that's nerfed is good for him. It counters him. And then number two, the Shiva's Guard nerf. This is a very expensive item, and it was the one build that Pudge was able to do. He was rushing this item in the offlane, and it was good. So maybe now you go like Veil into Blink or something like that, which Veil also got a little bit of a nerf since Pudge offlane was more viable. But he's kind of in the same place. It's okay. It's not good. Okay, moving on to the C tier. We have Bristleback, which I can't believe I'm putting him in here, just considering how bad he's been for a while now. But they reduced the threshold on his Bristleback, which is, of course, going to be significant because that means he's going to be quilling more with the Bloodstone and healing the shit out of himself, which, by the way, the Bloodstone changes where it increases AoE of your spells, but then no longer gives you mana regen. Obviously, Bristle is perfectly okay with this because he never really cared about the mana regen in the first place. But I would still not put him anywhere above this tier just because I don't think the buffs are significant enough to put him there. And I also think the game really has to call for like a free Bristleback game. Helps that Silver Edge is also complete garbage. And the healing reduction items have been nerfed, and yet still people are picking Doom to counter the healing guys. So that does suck for him. Lycan, I thought this hero would be a lot more OP at the start of the patch when I saw that Helmdom 2 had the cost reduced on that. I do still think that it's good. I just think that there are probably better heroes to build it, and there are probably just more OP items, like such as Orchid, which Lycan can build, by the way. But I think he really needs the Helmdom 2 to function. I don't think the universal hero Lycan shit is that good. Vlad's is also decent on him. Lycan's okay. But there are heroes that you can definitely get destroyed by in lane, and you need a support to sit with you all the time, and then you don't have this kill threat lane, and Lycan's a good last pick. He's a good last pick for sure. If they don't have any way of clearing the summons. Razor, part of why I think this hero is so strong is just because Falcons and some of these other teams that play a lot of Razor are showing how to play the hero. You know, there's the The Maelstrom build, if you play it as a carry, there's the Manta build that people are doing. Sanjin Yasha is good. The hero became different when they increased the static link duration, or the suck duration, but then reduced the amount that it sucks. In my opinion, it became better overall, but there are some heroes who are better against it, like Faceless Void, for example, because you can get out of the suck more quickly, and then it's stealing less. But the heroes that can't get away from it, such as like Lifestealer, Ursa, these sorts of heroes, you can really dumpster them in lane by picking this. Venomancer, this is a hero that's kind of like Nature's Prophet in the sense that I believe that it's a really good 5 position, probably a decent 4 position, and possibly like A tier. And the big reason for that is because he can build any item in Dota, and this is an item patch, but there's no completely broken item other than maybe Orchid, where like you have a lot of choice, and so you want heroes that can build like whatever's needed for the game, and Venomancer can do that. Also, Venom will shit on the Slark Ursa type heroes in lane if he doesn't get killed by them. But like I said, I think he's probably better in the support positions, just because you can do all of the stuff that I just mentioned as a support. Axe. So there's a build that people are doing on him, and it's very simple. It is just double Bracer into Blade Mail, and they're not going for Vanguard anymore. And I think also with like Veil being nerfed, these like obvious offlane builds that Axe wasn't necessarily a fan of are no longer just the insta-buy in the offlane. And so it opens up heroes that build other things, such as Axe, such as going for this double Bracer into Blade Mail build. And it feels pretty decent. And if you eventually go late game, Octarine Core, Bloodstone with the increased range on his Q, Axe, where you are like, it feels like 100% uptime calling people with the Berserker's Call. He's actually a late game monster if you can get to there. So Leshrac, they just buffed his Edict. Everybody is maxing that out. They just gave Bloodstone a little bit of mana regen, which Leshrac obviously needs the mana regen, and he really enjoyed the mana component to the Bloodstone, which got removed, but he also enjoys the AoE component to the Bloodstone because all of his spells are AoE. So Leshrac is just an S-tier hero. He's one of the best mid laners in the game currently, and so as an offlane, I think that it works decently well. Also, Tiny is a really strong 4, Tusk is a strong 4, Clock is fine. Like, these heroes that Lesh really likes to play with are good 4 positions, and that really helps. Wind Ranger, so they recently, not in the most recent letter patch, but they recently gave her a little bit more base damage, a little bit more slow on her power shot. These things are great, but the best thing about Wind Ranger is that she completely dumpsters a lot of carries in lane. You just poke them, these melee carries, which there's a lot of. Even like Luna, Wind Ranger will do fine against, depending on the support that you have, depending on the support that they have. And so I just feel like sometimes if I really just want to dominate the lane, I'll pick this hero, even though it's probably better in the other positions. Dawnbreaker. This hero is really good against current meta stuff, such as like Enigma, Faceless Void, where you can just ult in and save people. The build is a little bit weird because Mage Slayer got nerfed. The Deso build is not hugely popular. Echo Saber's okay. Greaves Pipe, I don't really see people doing that much. It's still the Mage Slayer or Blade Mail build that people are doing, but both of those feel just generally okay. I will say, with regards to Mage Slayer, the heroes that actually stick on enemies and just keep hitting them are less nerfed by the Mage Slayer nerfs, where they reduced it from 6 seconds to 3 seconds, because you're going to keep reapplying that buff. And Dawnbreaker is one of those heroes, so it's not as impactful for her to have that nerf. Alchemist. So this hero basically benefits from the Radiance buff, and that's kind of it. It's one of these like ticking time bomb offlaners where if you feel like the enemy team is just going to let you farm, then you pick this. You get another carry. You can farm your team Aghanim Scepters. That's always nice. But you can stack double Ancients, stack the Triangle, get a Radiance, and carry the game very easily if the enemy team is not a super aggressive lineup. Marcy, generally a good hero, probably a better support, but the Basher, BKB, maybe even the Aghanim Scepter where you're like perma-silencing people is good. I would say it's kind of in the state where like if you're a specialty Marcy player, go ahead, play it, you're going to do fine. If you're not a specialty Marcy player, then I would not highly recommend it. Batrider, a little similar, where I put this hero in the C tier because he's just incredibly good right now in general. Despite the nerfs, I'm still seeing people play like Batrider mid, and maybe part of that is that Shiva's got nerfed. Maybe part of that is people realizing that like universal heroes are just becoming good again from other stuff being nerfed. Mage Slayer got nerfed for him, and then eventually got nerfed for everybody else. And Batrider obviously doesn't like playing against Mage Slayer, so that's like a 2-factor nerf to him, or 2-factor buff to him. So it's hard to say why, but I just see Batrider a lot in pubs. He's still a really strong support position hero, and I think if you're a good offlaner with the Batrider, you can definitely make it work. You're not going to completely dumpster people in lane, but you're going to farm, and then you're going to eventually blink lasso people with an Aghanim Scepter, which I see people building, Octarine Core, and having that like 40-second cooldown lasso is super imba in the late game, and games are going late right now. And it's all about pickoffs as well once the mid game rolls around. All right, moving on to the B tier. These are the goodies. Visage, we'll start with this guy because I don't see an awful lot of Visage being played. This one is a little bit of a gamble for me, I guess, to put in here. I see some people playing it, and it looks really good for the people that are playing it. This is one of the best Orchid builders in Dota, and he's a universal hero. His attack range is incredible. His laning is good. He's a kill hero. You can play him with a lot of these melee supports like Tusk that are being played right now and just dumpster people. I think basically Orchid being strong makes Visage very strong. And he might even be higher than B tier, but we'll see. People have not picked it a lot. Doom, despite the nerfs, despite Doom having a lesser duration in the earlier levels, despite Midas being bad, despite Veil into Shiva's being worse, people are still picking Doom. And I think part of the reason for that is because healing heroes such as Io and Leshrac with the Bloodstone are strong, and Doom is the best anti-healing hero in the game over Ancient Apparition. Just being able to click one guy and say, fuck you, you're dead. That is very valuable right now, despite the nerfs. So Doom is still B tier. I mean, most people would even say he's A or S tier. I'm just a Doom hater, so I put him in B tier. But just know that. Like, if you asked another offlaner, they'd probably say A or S tier. But I stand by my convictions. Okay, Kunkka. He's been good. Heart is good, and people aren't even building it, so that honestly barely matters. If you really want to go Blade Mail Heart, you could still do it on him, and it's fine. Like, Heart is fine now with the +5 strength it got. But the main thing is people are getting Aghanim Scepter. Heroes that are good against Kunkka in lane, I think, can't deal with the Kunkka plus support duo that people are picking, like some Kunkka Hoodwink, Kunkka Mirana. People are going Bloodstone on Kunkka with the Aghanim Scepter, giving that extended range Torrent Storm, which is crazy. It covers the entire screen. That's probably the main reason that I think he's good, is the discovery of Bloodstone on Kunkka being sweet. It's also a fun meme build, so it's always good when those are popular and strong. Darkseer. So I think this hero is very strong because the carry pool right now is not that good against Darkseer. Either you're playing some Sven or Slark, like melee hero that does not want to play against Darkseer in lane, or you're playing a ranged hero that is also a good illusion hero like Luna or Terrorblade. So you can pick a Darkseer, run it with like a Tusk, a Batrider, a Tiny, dumpster the lane, even if it's like a good ranged hero, and then you get a good illusion in the game. Or they're a melee hero and you just fucking destroy them. Tidehunter, so he's a Vlad's builder. Vlad's is still really good. Mech is good. Like, you want these heroes to get a few small items into the Blink Dagger, into like an eventual Octarine Core, and then have some good spells to play around with the Octarine Core. Ravage obviously is one of those. Dead in the Water is another one of those. It's really annoying. It's like one of the most annoying disables in the game. Honestly, just that 1400 gold Aghanim Shard alone is enough to make the hero decent. But I also think that just the items in the patch favor Tidehunter pretty well. Beastmaster. So there are two builds you can do on him. You can either do the drums, that is the Drums of Slom, the Aghanim Scepter build, get a Crimson, get a pipe, and just be super fucking tanky. Sanjin Kaya is also very good, and good on him if you do that build. Shivas as well. That's good. You can do that against these illusion carries. Or you can go Dom 2 and you can speed up the game and you can get a Stranglehold on the map. And Beast is one of the best Dom 2 builders. It just got buffed. He's a universal hero. Universal items are good. Winter Wyvern. So this is a hero that people were building Parasma, which is still good. People were building Witchblade, which is still good, especially on heroes that are continuously right-clicking you, which obviously Winter Wyvern, that is her entire purpose. So Wyvern is still very strong. She's good against these physical damage carries. That's all of them right now, barring like Luna. And even Luna, you can, you know, Cold Embrace somebody and protect them, or turn her on her team and get the glaives to reflect back at you and you feel really sad. But actually, Wyvern's not that good against Luna, but she's good against everything else. And so I don't think the nerfs hurt Wyvern that much. Night Stalker, very strong against the current supports in the meta. A lot of Crystal Maiden, a lot of Hoodwink, you know, Dark Willow type heroes that you can just press ult, run at them. They can't do a fucking thing about it. Echo Saber's still good. Mage Slayer is still fine. You can build that on him, but I think people are basically just going Blink BKB. That's still good. Double Bracer as well. He wasn't a Veil builder, so that build being nerfed in the off lane makes Night Stalker better, relatively speaking. Viper, this is such a fucking boring hero, but sometimes you can just pick it and like dumpster somebody in lane. It's kind of like a better Venomancer in that sense. You build into Dragon Lance, right click Scotty, that sort of bullshit. Same old Viper. But his point and click break, since they made his ult do that, has been like the ultimate counter to any hero that needs to be broken in Dota. So he's just like a very fantastic break hero, and that's his niche. That's only the second time I've said that in this video, by the way, so I'm very proud of that. Death Prophet. My take on Death Prophet is that she does well against a lot of the popular heroes in lane. I think she's get out of lane just fine. And I also think that Greaves is back to being good, Mech is back to being good, Yules is good, and she really likes building all of these items. So despite the recent nerfs to the move speed on her ulti, I don't think it matters that much compared to the items on her that she wants to build already are actually good on this current patch. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to the A tier, and of course the very important good times tier. Remember, guys, Morphling can turn into other dudes in the game. So you get 2 heroes for the price of 1. That's fucking amazing. You just have to have a completely useless hero on your team and lose lane horribly in order to justify it. But that's a good trade-off, guys. I'm just kidding. Don't pick it. Okay, Brewmaster. So Brew, in my opinion, is very good against current meta heroes. Like Terrorblade, for example, you just toss him up in the air, or you kill his illusions with the Q. And also Radiance just got buffed. Vlad's is a good item. Brew really likes the things that I just said. So Brew is very good right now in competitive. It's like A tier. In pubs, it kind of feels like it's S tier and a lot harder to deal with, especially because people are picking supports like Hoodwink and Rubik that are good at activating Brew's W. So maybe this hero actually deserves to be in S tier, but I'm just at Dream League right now and watching a lot of competitive games, and he's not being picked that much. It's like a later phase hero, not an early phase hero. Centaur, this is an early phase hero. So even though Veil got nerfed, or at the very least, Shiva's got really nerfed, which Centaur really enjoyed buying, he's still getting picked a lot. Since they made his Q not a cast time, and instead it's like something you can move while doing it. And then also they made it so that his cart, his Aghanim's Scepter, gives you Stampede. I've seen a lot of people buying that. It seems like this hero has been good. People are doing all sorts of different builds on him. I've seen Blade Mail, I've seen Double Bracer, I've seen Vanguard, I've seen Veil into the eventual Shivas, but not rushing the Shivas anymore. So it doesn't seem like he got hurt that much by that nerf because there are alternative item builds that he can do. So Centaur is still very strong, and his scaling into the late game is incredibly good. The Aghanim Shard and being super fucking tanky with all of that strength is a valid way to play the game. I also think pressing R and running away from stuff and baiting things is a good way to play Dota right now. Broodmother, Bloodthorn. She's the best Orchid builder in Dota, arguably, and Orchid is OP. And she's a universal hero. Universal heroes are strong. Game and Gladiators has been winning first picking it in games. So Brood is good. Her webs are huge now too, by the way, compared to before. If you're an old Broodmother player, you're going to be very shocked by that. Slardar, Echo Saber is great. Which of course he really likes because you hit a certain number of times and you bash somebody. His amp is really strong against certain heroes. A lot of games are determined by like the carry to carry matchup right now. And Slardar makes it so that you win the carry to carry matchup, and he also beats a lot of strong carries in the lane, or at the very least, with a good support, he can survive against them. So yeah, Slardar, fine hero. I think that also the Mage Slayer nerfs, once again, a hero that just runs after you and keeps hitting you and reapplying that debuff doesn't care as much about the Mage Slayer nerfs, and that is what Slardar did, and that is what he does. So he's good. Magnus, maybe just because Spirit is a super good team right now. Magnus is like seeing a lot more play, and so people in pubs are picking it as well. But the build that people are going is either Orchid, which is good on Magnus because he's a universal hero and he kind of wants to build like one item before Blink Dagger, so that fits that slot. And then also you can get in there already with Skewer and you can press your Q to slow somebody. Like, it feels like Orchid is not one of these items where like, oh, I need mobility or I need some sort of save. Like, you're already tanky. You're not lacking anything in the early game, so you have space for the Orchid. But people are also going Blink Dagger, Aghanim Scepter, depending on if they just want to do the collapse thing where you're picking people off constantly and only taking fights that are off of good skewers. Like, you can do that currently because the Aghanim Scepter, they changed it at some point where it used to only stun you after the horn toss, but now it stuns you during the horn toss, so you can't just like blink out of it, which in my eyes it should. Enigma, amazing Vlad's builder, amazing mech builder. People are playing him just to be tanky, and if the enemy team doesn't counter your black hole, then you can build Blink Dagger, BKB, and black hole and kill these carries and win that carry to carry matchup that I was talking about. They nerfed his Q, the range on it. That's all they did to him in the letter patch, even though he was busted. And that barely affects this hero because you're as a support, you were maxing that out. As an offlane, you have enough levels, and it's the second thing you max out after Eidolons, so you don't really care either way about that nerf. That doesn't seem to have affected his win rate. Primal Beast, once again, this maybe is something based on competitive, but he's very good against like Pango. A lot of people are playing Pango mid. You press his ult on Pango's ult, it literally just stops Pango ult, which is stupid. Primal does very well in lane because you can just trample waves and jungle camps and cut waves if you want to. And he's also a great Sange and Kaya builder, and that is one of the most busted offlane items currently, which we'll get to some more heroes that build that in the next tier. Okay, finally, we are at the S tier, and you probably expected these heroes. So Timbersaw, they nerfed him a little bit. They nerfed, I believe, a talent and like one other thing. The nerfs, when I read them, I was like, holy shit, this is almost nothing. And I think the reason that it was almost nothing is because they nerfed the Veil into Shiva's build, which people were rushing Shivas on Timber, so they're like, yep, that's enough. It's not enough. They nerfed Mage Slayer. Timbersaw really did not like the fact that this thing lasted so long, because if you want to chase me, and I'm Timber, and keep reapplying the Mage Slayer, good luck. I can W away from you. Before, you would hit him once, and even if I W'd away for 6 seconds, I have Mage Slayer on me. So that nerf is really good for Timbersaw. People are just not building Shiva's Guard, or they're not rushing it. They're going Sange and Kaya, or Kaya and Sange. I think it's actually Kaya and Sange, because Timber is like one of the best Kaya and Sange builders in the game. And this item is very cheap and very good now. So Timber, even though he was OP on the previous patch, still OP. You still go for this Blink build eventually, except instead of Veil into Shivas, you're going Kaya and Sange, maybe Yules. That item is very strong. But you can just go regular Timber items after Kaya and Sange, and he's amazing. Mars, okay, this is an interesting one. This is a really interesting one, because the build on him is actually, there's two builds. There's Yule Scepter, which is great in a meta where everybody's getting Orchid, and there's pucks and silences and everything flying around. So he's in a Yule Scepter patch, and Mars already liked Yule Scepter because you can Yules into Spear, guaranteed kill people. And because it's an Orchid patch, Storm is strong, and Mars can Yules into Spear Storm. Puck is strong. You can Yules into Spear Puck. Like, not only is Mars good with Yule Scepter, he's good with Yule Scepter against all of the current meta heroes. So Mars feels really good if you do that. People are going Octarine Core if they go for that build, and just playing around, and Refresher, and playing around like double ult, having really low cooldown on Spear, the Yules, and low cooldown abilities. Or they're doing the ATF build of Sacred Relic, locking them, building 2 Rapiers that are locked, Revenant's Brooch, unlocking them, and then one-shotting people with the W. It's fucking hysterical, but actually good if you're ahead. And so I will say, this hero is currently hard to play because there are a few builds you can do, but if you can figure it out, he's probably the best offlaner in Dota currently. Dragon Knight, complete opposite. If you want the easiest fucking hero to play in the game, this is your guy. You build a Mage Slayer, you build a Yasha, which is cheaper now, into Manta style, you build an Aghanim Scepter, you press ult, you send your Black Dragons to multiple lanes, and even though they nerf the slow on the Black Dragon, it doesn't matter. These illusions are so fucking powerful, the way people are countering it is by stealing the illusions with Shadow Demon or Enchantress. That's how good they are. Dragon Knight is a late game menace, and he's unkillable in the early game, and he has tempo in the early game. And I was absolutely wrong about this hero on my previous tier list, because I didn't realize how OP Mage Slayer would be. And now I am realizing the error in my way. So, okay, anyway, that's it, guys. I'm going to get way over here. You can see my bed in the background. Get out of here, bed. Okay, well, just trust me that that hero there, that the bed is covering, is Nature's Prophet. All right? That's Nature's Prophet. Oh, there we go. The people that skip to the end. Oh, there he is. There's Nature's Prophet. Good. Ticky, 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 ticky. All right, see you guys. Thanks for watching.